I was like, this is insane. We're witnessing quite literally the craziest thing I'll ever witness in my life.
Foreplay, presented by Barstool Sports. We got the entire squadron on the show. Myself, Frankie, Trent, Dan. Dan is en route to Scotland to Troon for the final major of the year, the Open Championship. He's having a little bit of travel delays. I'm sure we'll get into that. Wild fucking weekend. We've had a lot of stuff has happened on every end of the spectrum. We could go one side and be like, yeah, Bobby MacIntyre won the Scottish Open. The other side, the front runner to win President of the United States got shot on Saturday. So we've had just a hell of a weekend. We had all kinds of soccer yesterday, chaos going on with soccer. And now here we are. It's major championship week. I've been over the last several weeks as things winded down in the world of sports, as the Pinehurst week ended and then the Stanley Cup finals ended, the NBA finals ended. I kind of thought like we've got one thing left, and it's the British Open at Royal Troon, and then after that, there's going to be sort of sports depression that sets in for a few months. I know we got the Olympics. Maybe I'll look forward to that, but kind of our last hurrah here, boys, for a big tournament.
Yeah, I mean, this is huge, and you really start to get that little appetizer, the appetizer for the British Open with the Scottish Open, of course. You just get the feels. Everything's foggy. Things are rainy. Things are windy. The wind pants are out. You see a lot of the people that you follow on social media are over there. Obviously, Dan's not yet because he didn't get his flight got, I guess, canceled or something. They ripped him off the plane. But yeah,
but they gave me this T-shirt. They gave me this T-shirt.
They gave you a T-shirt.
They wouldn't give me my bag, but so they gave me the T-shirt so I could spend the night.
I didn't get my flight to Edinburgh, but I got this T-shirt. That's
Nice.
that T-shirt you got.
But yeah, you
It's
just
really
kind of
nice.
get jacked up. I mean, it was a crazy fucking weekend, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to start with the Trump stuff because that's the craziest shit I've ever seen in my life.
Emma's been saying, like, Emma, my wife, has been on these weird like TikTok stuff about all these like psychics and stuff saying that like weird shit's about to happen and like things are about to go down and there's no way that it's just like
With
Trump
Alex
versus
Jones?
Biden. Yeah, I mean, I think probably like the other spectrum of Alex Jones, but in the same kind of genre. And this was one of the weekends where it felt like there was a screw loose with the Matrix. Something was off this week.
Yeah, man. I mean, we were eating dinner at my sister-in-law's house, and we just had like the Yankee game on. It was behind us, and my mother-in-law was watching Fox News. And she was watching him give the speech, and she FaceTimes us, and she's like, Trump just got shot, and we ran to the TV, and it was like that moment of like, I'm in something right now. It was a where were you? What were you doing? What were you holding in your hand at that moment? And we were watching all those scenes that you see of him getting dragged up. We were watching that live. We turned it on immediately, and it was like, oh my God. Like there before he got lifted up, he was dead to me. I was like, this is insane. We're witnessing quite literally the craziest thing I'll ever witness in my life. I
was on a plane. People get shot when I'm on planes.
Oh yeah, David Ortiz.
David Ortiz got shot when I was on a plane. So I landed, but I mean I had internet access on my flight, so I sort of started to see it come in. It wasn't perfect Wi-Fi, but yeah, man, just insane.
Yeah, insane shit.
I was in the third fairway at Greyhawk's Talon course, and my friend Kyle just holds his phone up in the air, and everybody else in their car, everybody's got their own music going in your cart, so it's not that easy to communicate. And he holds his phone up in the air in the fairway. He goes, guys, Trump just got shot. And everyone was like, what the fuck? And we all huddled around the phone. Everybody's kind of grabbing their own phones. You're trying to figure out in real time. The best place to go, it was really interesting because we were dissecting it over the next hours. You're trying to figure out everything from what happened to like the news about what happened and how you consumed it. You're almost trying to reflect in real time so you can remember because it was such a iconic, like memorable thing. But one of our guys was like, I went straight to Google and Googled it and there's nothing. And I was like, that is when Twitter is justified because that is the only place you could find anything is Twitter. Now, a lot of it is fucking bullshit. You're trying to carve through
Twitter's
crap.
a cesspool right now.
Find out what's real.
It's bad.
But it is true. Like nobody had any time to write anything and publish it at that point. So the only place you could find anything was pretty much on Twitter in real time, and it was nuts.
What hit me today was just how close we were. I mean, obviously what happened was insane, and everyone will remember it. An inch the other way, and he's domed on live television.
Right.
Millimeter.
Crazy.
When you watch
television.
Oh yeah, when you watch the simulation
on live television
of what he did to look at that screen at that moment, I mean, it's wild. And yeah, man. I mean, I don't know where the world would be today if that goes through his head.
Right, like that hits him, right? His head explodes on live television because if the eyewitnesses of the person that it did hit, who tragically died, I don't know if you guys heard, there was like an emergency, a guy who works in emergency rooms who was on site, and so he kind of went over to the guy who got shot, and he was like, "Yeah, right away," like he was dead. So that could have happened on live television.
And he says he never keeps his eye off of the crowd. Like that was a very, I mean, that's also him being a little like he's like, I've never looked at that screen ever, which might be true. They had a screen that he was talking about and he just looks that way.
It's bad. I said it last show when we were talking a little bit of politics, and I was like, it's getting to the point now where things are getting crazier and crazier and crazier, where I don't know where it's going to go. This is obviously an elevation of that. What I want to say is that I like this American life that I live. I think you guys would agree with that. And it's getting to the point now where we can't have people shooting at anyone, certainly not former presidents. This thing is ripping apart at the seams, and I think the temperatures just got to chill. I don't know what that means, but it's fucking like everything as bad as some of the parts of this country are in terms of like what it is and what it isn't. Like it's pretty good. Let's not rip this thing apart.
Yeah, I think that we have seen in the days since we're recording this on Monday, it's only been 2 days. We've seen the rhetoric sort of cool down a little bit. I think we've seen Trump's kind of released a few different things saying, you know, there's a lot of information that he's completely rewriting his speech, that his speech was originally just going to be burying Biden's entire record. And now it's going to be a lot more focused on unity. You know, I don't know if he had like a light flash before his eyes type revelation. I would imagine he had that to some degree. We saw in Biden's speech that was last night where he, I think his line is, other than the battle box thing, was that we're like, we might disagree, but that doesn't mean that we're enemies, that we're technically all like Americans. I think everybody kind of needs that right now because it's seeped into everything that we talk about. Like you're incapable of disagreeing with someone in this day and age without it getting pretty goddamn fiery and personal and like vitriol, where it's like, no, man, like, what happened to just being able to have pretty productive discourse? What is the point in disagreeing with someone and having an argument with someone if your goal too isn't to like reasonably either come to agree to disagree or to like change their opinion or approach it yourself from where you're able to allow your opinions to evolve? And instead, it's like, this is what I've got. This is what I believe. I'm dug in forever. And if you believe something different at all, you are the fucking worst. And I will not stop until I bury you or fucking shoot you at this point.
It's insane.
And that's insane.
Insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. And it was, I mean, it's hopefully reached a point, like you just said, like hopefully the culmination or the crescendo of that fiery polarization was that they barely missed Trump. It's still horrible that someone died, and Trump's GoFundMe has raised, I think, $3 million at this point. Father, fire, all that obviously is terrible. There's been a lot of terrible stuff that happened. But if the crescendo is that Trump barely was missed, I feel like we avoided it. Could have been much, much, much worse. And hopefully we're kind of at a point where people realize we need to chill the fuck out with this stuff.
It's we almost kept going the craziest closest to the pin streak of curses of all time.
Oh my
God. Remember we had Nelly Corda, she made a 10. We had Scottie, he went to jail. We had John Rahm at I think it was the Houston Live event. He withdrew from the tournament. And then the one yesterday was, will Joe Biden still be the nominee on Monday? There was a scenario in which we talk about how close everything was.
Wow.
There's a scenario in which Biden pulled out, right, last week or whatever, and then that hits Trump, and then it's complete anarchy. So I feel like you're right. It's almost one of those where it's like we learned the lesson, and it was not the hard way, right? Like what happened yesterday was horrible and traumatic, but it wasn't the hardest way we could have learned.
I'll be curious to see, because it does seem like the way things go now is it just gets worse. Obviously, this is a bigger event than what has happened within the last couple of years, but like usually it gets way fucking worse. So hopefully that doesn't happen, because everybody just needs to just relax.
I mean, there's extremes on both sides. You hope that they all can just kind of cool off right now. Trump has a really, really great opportunity now to to really set everyone, just sit down for a second. Let's all just chill. He's making a speech on Thursday. Like you said, hopefully he's reworking it so it's not just like me versus you, which is where you have to do that now in all of these things. Biden does it to Trump. Trump does it to Biden. For the history of politics, they've gone after the other guys. Don't do that this time, right? Like you just a millimeter and you're dead. Like, let's just take a step back and let's take this chance to unite the country. That's what you have to do. And you said before, Riggs, like Twitter's an incredible place. I saw it first and it wasn't even being tweeted yet. I thought I died. Like I thought like I wasn't in like the world anymore. I was refreshing Twitter and no one was talking about it. And I'm looking at it on TV. That's how fast I saw it. And I'm like, I don't even know what's happened. I was going to be the first one to be like, did Trump just get shot? Like, this is nuts. But now what you're seeing after 2 or 3 days is if your like algorithm shows you like the bad shit, that's the only thing you're going to be fed. And like, there are people out there that are like, this didn't even happen. He had like a ketchup packet. The people that died didn't actually die. And there's like, they're getting hundreds of thousands of likes and millions of views. And it's like, that's not a good product if that's allowing these people to write those things. And hundreds of thousands of people are believing that this didn't happen. Like, how horrible is that for the family? It's a fact that this man died. You could see it in the video. The guy dies on video in the background of Trump. It's like, can't you just be normal can't the world be normal for a second? We think the guy put ketchup on his ear. It's like, what are we talking about?
We are currently a country controlled by the crazies.
It's like, crazy.
I don't even know how many of those are real people.
I don't know either.
It's so scary, and there's no getting back from that.
People in real life, most people are normal, right? So it's like, are these people hiding in basements, or are they just not real people?
It just makes me scared for like we're never gonna get back. Like no matter what is said, no matter who's the president, like it's just always like we're in the end game now. Like it's just there's no getting back.
That's what I was saying. The American life is pretty good. All right, like let's keep it that way. We're gonna tear each other apart because you're gonna say this didn't happen, that didn't happen. When it's like, fuck, I don't know.
And I will say this also: it feels like we're at like a tipping point, but this has happened in the history, right? I mean, we always do this. Each generation thinks they're the only ones that have ever had something happen to their generation.
The only difference is how information travels and how fast it gets to people.
Yes,
and how many people actually have a voice. That's different.
And it's all on fucking camera. Someone would have had Lee Harvey Oswald on camera being like, there's a guy in there. Right. They didn't have that back then, and now we do. The videos of them being like, he has a gun. He has a gun. The whole thing's on camera.
It's a real negative of what you were just saying, Frankie, with social media, Twitter, all of them really, is that we are kind of controlled by the algorithm, and the algorithm highlights the most extreme. It's the same reason that cable news is the way that it is, right? They highlight all news really, but like you highlight the craziest shit because that's what people are going to gravitate their attention towards. They don't gravitate towards like everything's pretty good, medium household incomes kind of up. People, like they don't gravitate towards that. They gravitate towards like, what the fuck? Who was murdered of this crazy shit? And then that's next thing you know, because the algorithm heightens all that, and the minority voices, as crazy as they are, and we don't hear them out in the real world. We don't hear them when we talk to people at the Barstool Classic, but like those that are on the internet get highlighted and they get presented, and the algorithm puts them up top for you. And next thing you know, it's not necessarily that everybody has a voice, but it's that anybody can kind of have a voice that really gets magnified. As crazy as it fucking is, it's more likely to get magnified, and then it does. And next thing you know, over years and years, you're looking at TikTok or Twitter, and your whole brain thinks that everything is fucking nuts. And in some ways it is, some ways it isn't, because that's all you're kind of being fed. And Trent, you're right. Like I went through and I was just pulling up all the assassination attempts of presidents in the U.S. history. There's a shit ton of them. It's like probably twice as many presidents have actually been assassinated and killed than most people know.
Yeah.
And there's been stretches that are absolute chaos. Like if you go through the 1960s, like 1968 alone was one of the wildest years of all time. Dr. Martin Luther King is assassinated. Bobby Kennedy, who looked like he's a decent chance of being the next president of the United States, assassinated 5 years before. His brother, obviously JFK, maybe the most famous assassination in history. Like crazy polarized times have happened, and you almost feel like you're in a little bit of like the Bachelor mantra of like, this is the most dramatic season yet. This is the most like important, like no election where they going around being like, hey, if we're going to compare it, this election isn't that important compared to the other ones. We're just kind of hoping to win. Like, they never fucking say that. It's always
Right.
the most consequential election in the history of the United States. So you kind of like, it's weird. On one side, it does feel nuts. Like, Trump is unlike any candidate in history. Biden had the worst debate performance in history and might not even be cognitively there or alive. And so it does feel like we're not too outside the box to say that we're witnessing something unlike any other election in history. But then you also go back through every decade that's ever happened, and they were kind of saying the same thing. So it's hard to figure out what's true, what's not, where you're supposed to sit throughout the whole thing. But I think we all agree that we should fucking turn down the temperature.
Just chill. Like, I mean, it's really hard to. It's really
yeah.
hard. Like a video of a guy who looked like the shooter. He put up, some psycho put up. Did you see this? He put up a video. He's like, "You got the wrong guy. Like, I'm still out there. Fuck the Republicans."
Jesus.
And billions of views. Everyone's like, "He's out there." It's like, that's just not him, you moron. Yeah. The guy's dead on a fucking on a roof. What's wrong with these people?
Yeah, well, back in the day, these videos used to get submitted to news stations, and then there would be a layer of due diligence that they would do before they would just blast them out to the public. And now that layer doesn't exist.
This episode is brought to you by Chevy. Get the crew together, head off to the course in the new 2024 Chevy Traverse. It's got an impressive, and I mean very impressive, cargo room, 3-row seating, the first ever Z71 trim. Traverse can handle your buddies and their golf bags with ease. You got to have a huge vehicle when you go on these trips. We do this all the time. You got to have room. You need to be efficient. You're moving a lot of people and a lot of stuff. The 2024 Chevy Traverse is perfect for that.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing against big cars back in the past is they're hard to park, but these cars, the technology now, that's not difficult anymore. So roomy is better for me.
It really is. And with the standard best-in-class 17.7-inch diagonal color touchscreen among 3-row SUVs and AutoSense power, liftgate, Traverse has delivered the elevated tech game, which is what we like to see. It's all kinds of technology, room, Chevy, iconic, the brand, the bow tie, it's all come together for the Traverse. Head over to Chevy.com/Traverse to build your own and learn more. And go to this website. Check out this phenomenal machine. It's really incredible. That is Chevy.com/Traverse. Chevrolet, together, let's drive.
Now, the craziest thing that happened this week, and we'll move on, is Robbie McIntyre's drop, right? I think that's the craziest thing that happened all weekend. I mean, that's what No Laying Up wrote. They're like, we can't even celebrate this win because of how ridiculous that drop was. They got roast. I hope that was sarcastic.
The rules stuff is just it's so tired to me. It's like the rules are the fucking rules, and they're the same
I gotta look up
for
that
everybody.
Tweet. I have to look up that tweet.
They're the same for everybody. Everyone's playing by this. Beyond that, the competition is shoot the lowest scores. You use the rules to your advantage when it works that way. There is no reward. And I guess, in the back day, Arnold Palmer might have done this. But they're trying to win a tournament for a lot of money, and the rules are the same for everybody.
No, there's no way you blame Bobby Mack or anything like that. The only thing that I think you could criticize is something should be tweaked to the rules if you look at it on a more macro level. Obviously, that one's highlighted. It's on the back nine. Who knows what Adam Scott, what drop he might have gotten Thursday or Friday when nobody's watching. You don't fucking know throughout a whole tournament, and over the course of a year or a month or 72 holes, it evens out. Everybody agrees with that, where everybody gets their fair share of good and bad breaks based on rules and all the other shit. But I do think it's pretty ridiculous in this game that somebody could pipe one 360 down the middle and it ends up in a fucking divot where they have to pretty much chop it out and hit it 50 yards. And nobody bats an eye. There's no that's oh, you just kind of that's just the rule. Yet you can hit it in the high hay where making par would have been pretty impressive, and he can make eagle. It's still a great shot. And there's no rule involved that calculates or can tweak that in any way. Again, it's not Bobby Mack. It's not the rules official on site's fault. But don't you think that that's a little ridiculous throughout the game?
No, I don't. I mean, I think there's an element of chaos in golf. It's played on a field outside.
But that's not chaos. That's taking chaos out of it. The chaos should have been he's in the fucking hay and he's got to stand on a sprinkler head and hit.
I'm saying there's a bit of randomness where you can hit a good shot and get fucked and hit a bad shot and something happens. And it happens to everybody. It's part of the game. That's why I said to you, I texted you with this about VAR in soccer, where it's I would have been for if they got rid of it at all and don't review anything. And some bad calls are bad calls because that's part of what makes sport. Otherwise, again, go back to this. You extend that to the logical extreme. You just play it on a driving range.
Lies and all that, I understand. That's chaos and randomness. It could hit a tree and kick anywhere. But a rule is human and like bureaucratic intervention where you're like, no, we'll let you get a, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's different than just randomness. That's actually not random. Like, you're kind of now controlling, like you're adding human control to the situation that is taking out the randomness is what I'm saying. Like, that's, I just think like there almost should be, like we all play scramble. I feel like when people play scramble, it's like, oh yeah, you could take a drop, but it's got to be like in the same terrain. You know what I mean? Or something like that. I don't know exactly how you would tweak the rule, but to go from like horrific stuff to totally fine because of standing on like a sprinkler head feels like a difference in the outcome of score that's not equitable to the reason that he got the drop. Do you see what I'm saying?
But there's also like the
see what you're
percentage.
saying.
There's
Go ahead,
the percentages on both sides where like it could have taken a low or high percentage bounce to get to that spot. Like there's always the highs and the lows of luck and unlucky, and like who knows of what kind of bounce it took to get into that high shit, which inevitably ended up on a sprinkler head where he got to move it. Like I just don't think. I feel like if there is a set rule that you are not allowed or you can move the ball where you're standing on a sprinkler head or near a drain or wherever it may be, it doesn't matter where you hit that shot. Like what's the difference between that and sometimes when they're in the middle of the fairway and they get to move it on an upslope as opposed to it being on a downslope when it was on a drain? Like you can't. You have to be able to award him or reward him if anyone else would get that anywhere else. I just because it was in the high stuff, why do you take out like the bounce it took to get there? Maybe that was shit. You know what I mean? Like it's not like he just got lucky for that one time. Maybe he got unlucky the fact that it ended up there and it all just kind of evened out. You know what I'm saying? It's like you don't know how it ended up in that one bad spot. You just have to call the rules the way they are.
You have to call the rules the way they are. I'm not saying anybody should have done anything different on Sunday, like or could have or anything. That's the way it goes. I do kind of. I guess for me, I find it a little like unfair in situations where the like I'm saying the difference in the result is massive because of something tiny. And I think that if you could come up with some way, whether it's the same terrain or something, that would be more equitable, like across the board. Being like, okay, you're in the hay, you're definitely standing on a sprinkler head. You obviously get dropped.
Same terrain.
You're not standing on it.
I can
like,
find that too.
Same terrain or something is just for me. I think would be closer, and it is extremely difficult because, like what you just said, like I've gone back and forth on the divot rule. I think the divot rule is probably the one that's brought up the most because they're like, okay, fine, if you do declare that you get free relief from a divot in the fairway, well, then players are going to be claiming that every single imperfection in the history of a fairway is a divot. They deserve relief. If their ball's on a little bit of a side hill lie and they get scorecard length over here, now technically they could be standing flat and they've improved their lie. So that one's always been tough, and I've gone back and forth on that. I think this one would probably get pretty dicey as well and be very hard to police, and it would probably lead to just as many issues or disagreements. But I guess like I don't fully not understand people that thought that's a little ridiculous or kind of hurt Adam Scott. Like I get people saying that. I don't think you could have changed anything, but I get people being like, what the fuck? Like that ball was screwed and he's able to make eagle.
Sucks, but that's for me. That's part of sport. Like that's part of the. You can control what you can control, and there's a little element of chaos. And I think sports are better because of it.
I'm sure there's been a time where Robbie Mack hit a sprinkler head and it went into the water or something, and this is the golf gods being like, you know what, man? Like you probably lost a tournament once or you missed a cut, and now you just like you get a bounce. You get a bounce here or there. Some guys hit the flag stick and it goes into the water. Robbie Mack happened to find the one sprinkler head in the high shit, and he got to move his club back. I mean,
dude, early in the week, Obert's ball landed on top of another ball,
right,
and went spraying.
That's what I mean. Like
crazy.
And I get it. It's fucking. It's especially in Scotland. Everything should be so natural, and you have a sprinkler head in the middle of the high shit like that. It just seems so ridiculous. But I don't know. I'm just. Yeah, I was more happy for him because he's the hometown kid. I mean, I got people tweeting out that they can't get excited for that eagle. That shot after the drop was out
Amazing.
of this world. And
Yeah.
then to make the putt, to take advantage. Everyone gets bounces here and there, and to take advantage of it is how you end up winning, and that's what makes you a winner.
It's what he said. He said he needed it. He was out of the tournament, basically. He made a big putt on, he was like 3 back. He made a big, long birdie putt on like 14 or 13 that brought him back, and then that eagle, and then they made a long putt again on 18. He needed every break that he got, and yeah, what a hero. That's awesome. Just seeing him be like how much he wanted it throughout the week. This is the one I want. It's not a major championship. I want it to be the Scottish Open. He works his way into contention. Last year, it feels like with Keegan getting the Ryder Cup captaincy after his near heartbreak, and Bobby Mack getting the Scottish Open after his, I feel like Rory's going to win this week. I feel like it's the year.
All right, we're doing it. Let's do
again.
it. Rev up
Here
the
I
engine,
go
baby.
again.
Let's go.
I can't do this again. I know the 1 week I don't bet on Rory, he's finally going to win his first major in like a million years. I don't know, man. I don't know. It was the putter again this last week. He like should have won the way he hit the golf ball. It feels like. We'll get into the Rory thing. The last thing I'll say on the Bobby Mack stuff was him making those putts is so fucking awesome. He did the same thing in Canada where he rolls them in perfect speed. And, you know, him and Adam Scott were, you know, coming down 18. They're both in a similar spot on their approach shots. Adam Scott hit one in there tight and hit a horrific putt that never even sniffed anything. And then Bobby Mack pours it in front of everybody. So that is how you win. I understand all that. And it was very cool to watch because that guy, and then him saying afterwards, like, I'm not even going to be able to drive to Troon tomorrow because my blood alcohol, that stuff was great. So he's like the most easy guy to root for in golf right now. I love that guy. So it was sweet to watch. Rory, yeah, I had bet on Rory again this last week to win pre-tournament. And, I mean, he's still playing great. There's no, I mean, we got a bunch of different guys to go through. We got Rory, we got Bryson, we got Colin, we got, you know, players to discuss going into this week. Rory, I don't know what the fuck to think about Rory. I don't know, unless he has a 5-shot lead on the back nine on Sunday, I just don't know that he can win.
So you don't know mentally if he can handle it, is what you're saying.
Right. Like, that's exactly.
Because he's broken. He broke.
Well, he said we talked about it last week or whatever. He was starting to get uncomfortable with that putt on 16. Like that's a red flag. That's about the biggest red flag he has admitted to in his career.
Yeah, but you learn from those things. Like I think for him it's like he's got to not externalize it because obviously it was his problem, but he's got to point to something and be like, okay, I got really slow in those couple holes, and that's something I got to change because you got to have a change. Otherwise, you're like, well, fuck, man, that's probably going to happen again. I think it was a perfect result for him this week. Plays well enough to win, but putts poorly where you can be like, oh, you know, the greens were bad, this, that, or the other. You know, you guys can putt bad 1 week, putt great the next week. You didn't have to deal with like the stress of being actually in contention or winning or, God forbid, blowing another tournament. You know, I think it was kind of a perfect tune-up.
I saw a great drill for putting actually on social media yesterday where a guy put down a flat hole on a practice putting green and put the flag stick, I'd say 3 feet behind the hole, like, you know, as like a border, and would roll all of his putts from 5, 10, 15 feet through the flat hole, right? And then it would have to end up either on the hole or in between the hole and the flag stick. And if you hit the flag stick, or if you went short of the hole, you had to start from the beginning. And it got your pace of rolling like 3 feet past every single putt. And it was make pace, but it wasn't enough to really, like, you know, go down the slopes if you ever crush one by. It looked awesome. Not saying Rory has to practice that, but I'm just saying that in terms of putting, that was a really good tip that I thought everyone should start doing. I'm going to start doing it. I got to get myself a flat hole. I like that. It was really nice.
Yeah, it does teach you like how much pace is everything in putting. It really is. It's like
To Scott Fawcett, that asshole says, he's like, left and right means nothing. It's like at some point you'll figure that out or whatever. But if you have pace, you will never 3-putt.
Yeah, the big one for me that I always go back to is you put an 8 handicap on a perfectly level one of those putting mats. They're going to make every one because it's dead straight and speed doesn't matter. It's all about speed and line.
Right.
Speed and read rather.
Right.
Yeah, Rory. I mean, look, Rory had the collapse at the Masters before he'd ever won any major. He comes back, he wins the US Open, but that one he won by like 8. And then the next major that he won by like 8. And I just have seen a pattern throughout with him where it's like he was able to a couple times after that get through. It's been 10 years since, get through in tight majors down the stretch, hitting the shots and getting it done. But, like whatever it is, half of his majors, he had big leads and was able to hold on. And we've seen him, man, at the Open Championship at St. Andrews. He hit every green and had 36 putts, which we didn't look at the time as like a collapse or anything like that because he's hitting it great. It's like he had a couple birdies, but then the U.S. Open, it's like to watch that happen the way that it did, to watch him miss those 2 short putts. I just worry that unless he has a massive lead, I worry about that guy down the stretch, just being able to close. So I'm the Rory guy. He's the guy I'm rooting for the hardest. I love that storyline. It'll be so cool if he gets over the hump. I just don't know that he could do it without a pretty substantial lead. Imagine a burglary at your home. Pretty scary.
I don't have to imagine. There's been burglaries all around my neighborhood. The neighborhood's on fire. It's a very scary thing.
Oh, no. Maybe you should move to another neighborhood, but you definitely should make sure you have Simply Safe. Simply Safe's huge. If you're picturing a shady character sneaking about under the cloak of night, you may be surprised to learn that according to the FBI, most break-ins happen during broad daylight and spike during the summer when more homes sit unattended and the days grow longer. That's why you need Simply Safe home security. Now, Simply Safe is the only security company to trust with your home and family's protection, offering peace of mind whether you're home or away. I've got Simply Safe at my pad down in Pinehurst. I think I've got 4 cameras. You can just open up the app. You can check in on that whenever you want to, whatever's going on around there. It's an incredibly nice feature with fast protect monitoring and live guard protection. Simply Safe agents can act within 5 seconds of receiving your alarm and can even see and speak to intruders to stop them in their tracks, which is incredible technology. Pricing is transparent and affordable at less than $1 a day with no hidden fees ever. It's easy to install and activate your Simply Safe system in less than an hour, or choose professional installation to have a pro do it for you. Protect your home this summer. We've got 20% off any new Simply Safe system when you sign up for Fast Protect monitoring. Just visit this link, simplysafe.com/foreplay. That's simplysafe.com/foreplay. There's no safe like Simply Safe. We've got at Royal Troon this week. So I've been looking. The weather, Dan, I don't know if you've looked, but the weather looks a little juicy throughout the weekend. It looks...
It's just Scottish summer. This is what you expect. 63 degrees and it's in rain sideways.
It looks like from Thursday through Sunday, it's like 50 to 60% chance of rain and between like a 10 and 20 mile an hour wind pretty consistently, which is fucking great. That's what you want. The last time we were at Royal Troon was one of the more bizarre leaderboards in history, where you had Henrik Stenson and Phil Mickelson were going toe-to-toe. Stenson won. He was 20 under par. Phil in second was 17 under par. And then J.B. Holmes was 11 back from Phil and was 6 under par. So it was a fucking crazy Sunday. I think Stenson was like 8 under and Phil was like 6 under. And the rest of the field was nowhere even close. They just kind of went crazy. So yeah, we've had the last sample we had here was just a bizarre kind of leaderboard.
That was a duel, a proper duel in the sun. I remember that.
Duel.
I think that was the major championship record at the time. It's since been broken. Valhalla came back in the mix, but it's that was the scoring record at the time.
Little couple nuggets on Royal Troon, 1878. So this bad boy's old. It was 5 holes, I believe. About 10 years later, expanded 18 holes. First Open was at Royal Troon, 1923. Fun fact about the Open Championship, which I like to bring up every year. There have been, I believe, 4 different reasons that the Open Championship has been canceled. There was World War I. That was the first reason. From, I think, 1915 to 1919, there was no championship. World War II, that was the second reason. I think from 1940 to 1945, there was no championship. 2020, COVID, insurance purposes, there was no championship, even though they did play the Women's Open. And then my favorite, which again we revisit every year, which is that 1871. They had a rule in place at the time that if anybody wins the Open Championship 3 years in a row, they get to keep the championship belt. Young Tom Morris won 3 years in a row in 1868, 1869, and 1870. So he literally kept the championship belt. And in 1871, there was no trophy to play for, so they just didn't host the tournament.
I like it.
One of my favorite facts that we learned when we were over in Scotland was the origination of the Open Championship at Prestwick, where they just had the greatest golfers in town Old Tom Morris, and all of these guys, and they're like, we need to see who's the best. So let's all get together at Prestwick and let's just have a championship. And they called it the Open. And there was like 7 guys that played in it, and that was the first one. And it's just like, it's so pure of like, who's the best golfer in town. I love that. And they figured it out at that bar.
Ye Old Tim. I think I could beat Ye Old Tim over there down the bar.
Now it's like, how many sponsorship dollars are there? Where's it going to be?
Oh, my gosh.
Where the TV camera's going to go? Back then, they were just at a bar and were like, I think I'm better at golf.
Show Old Tom Morris the footage of of MacIntyre taking that ball and moving it off a sprinkler head and watch it just to see how, but also just to see how like big the game has gotten and how insane it's gotten. He's gonna be like, this is in Scotland. Like, what the
Didn't they say when we were at Prestwick, one of it was they took caddies, and the reason was because a lot of the guys who were good at golf were big gamblers, and they needed eyes on people so they wouldn't cheat, so they wouldn't just kick their ball back into the middle of the fairway. Things have changed.
I have a question.
Sure.
Real quick, it's gonna go a little off the rails. If you had 1 hour to go to the future, 200 years into the future, or 200 years into the past, you could do whatever you want in that hour. What would you enjoy the most? All right. We're all not the smartest people in the world. I don't think we're going to get anything done. But like, would you enjoy telling people in the past what the future is like? In this scenario, you can't get murdered for like being a witch or anything, you know, like a wizard. Like if you say like, oh, this people are going to listen to you. You're going to get on. If you go back 200 years, people are going to like congregate, and you're going to be able to tell them in 200 years.
We're
forward,
talking like which like hour is just pure enjoyment, or which could you like benefit from the most?
Oh, well, you can answer it both ways.
Enjoyment is the future.
If I go to the future, I do a quick Google search for an hour of like all the financial happenings over,
right.
And then you just can guarantee that within a year you're like a billionaire, and now life's great. But that's not that enjoyable. You're just on Google the whole time.
I guess my point is like, would you enjoy learning like what the world is like for an hour in 200 years, or would you rather tell the people from 200 years ago everything that they started?
Yeah, you're fucking up those people's days in the past.
But like, you get to go talk to Old Tom Morris and be like, look what golf turns into, dude. Like, it's such a satisfaction for the people that got us here.
He's going to be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
But in my scenario, I said they can't kill you.
No, I'm not saying he's going to kill you. He's going to look at you and be like, you're a crazy person.
So you don't, I think I would, there's something in my brain that would get off on the fact of telling people that they did it.
No, but then if you go to the
Abraham
future,
Lincoln and George Washington, like, dude.
Abraham Lincoln would not be impressed with our country now, especially.
Yeah, that's true.
He would say, nothing fucking changed 160 years.
Then, like, do you mess with all of history? Because, like, if you tell him, hey, by the way, like, April 14th, 1865, like, don't go to that show, and then that changed, that butterfly effect. Now, like, you don't even exist. Like, we don't even exist if that happens. Everything changed.
I think you got to go to the future. You go to the future, you check things out. Then when you come back, you can tell everybody about it. If your thing is telling people things, future's better than the past.
Yeah, it is.
And future, what would that, 200 years? I mean, it might just be a dystopian Mad Max Fury Road land.
Do you guys think in 200 years the world's going to look that much different?
Yeah.
Depends.
I do. I think it's going to look unbelievably different.
I do too, yeah.
Oh, I think every part of it's different. Everything.
Yeah.
Literally everything.
How long ago was 200 years here?
God, that was like
1824.
1824.
That's 35 years before the Civil War. Like that was.
The world looks different, man.
Also, things are evolving at such a rapid rate now with technology. Dude, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, there was no internet. There was no cell phones. Fast forward a small chunk of that 200 years in our own lifetime, and things are drastically different.
Frankie, you go back to that 1860 Open Championship at Prestwick with you and all your current equipment. Do you win that Open?
You're shaking your head yes, Dan. No,
dude,
I
think it does too.
They shot
I don't know the scores.
They shot like in the 80s. They shot in the mid 80s from like a 50.
Yeah, Frankie's in the Open Championship. Bro,
that
he knows the
QI10, you're roasting that thing all over Preston.
dude, let me look at the scores. 1 second.
No way am I winning the Open Championship. They're still sick. You're talking about guys that were the best in the world. I don't care.
I genuinely don't know. I don't know the answer. Like, I think you might win by 20, and I think you might lose by 20.
I shoot 110.
I have no idea.
Also, you're assuming that I'm just going to play, like, I'm going to shoot a 79. I mean, I know they probably played it from pretty short, but still, you got to get the ball in the hole.
So it's
Really soft green.
It's very strange. What I believe it was 12 holes that they played.
Okay.
And the winning score was 55, 59, 60,
They didn't have like par.
74. They didn't have par. It was 3,799 yards.
Bro, you're torching that course.
Oh wait, so that's like
3,799 yards?
Yeah, for 12 holes.
Wow.
So if you take out the 10, 11, 12, 10 was 213, 11 was 132, and 12 was 417. So call that roughly like 750 yards. It's like a 3,000 yard course. Yeah. And they shot, God, it's hard with the no par. And let's say they went 3, 4, 4 on those. That would be 11. So
it's a 49.
They shot in like the 40s, the low 40s on a 3,000. It was what I said.
But Frankie's rolling in, dude. He knows like this is historic. He could go down as the 1860 Open champion. Like he's going to be nervous.
Are you that big of a choke? Like I feel like you can do it.
Yeah, I think you could win.
We played Prestwick, the home of the very first Open Championship. They actually have the original routing. Remember they said they do it like once a year?
Yeah. That
they'll play the 12 holes.
Dude, I want to say the first hole or the last hole or something is like a 650-yard hole.
Yeah. And like Youngtown Morris, like Eagle Day. Remember that?
Yeah, right.
With all
like
that
back
equipment
when
back
nobody
then.
did that.
So the first hole, called Back of Cardinal, was 578 yards.
And I think Youngtown Morris made a 3 on it.
I think he made a 3.
The next longest hole is 448. So that thing was a fucking beast.
Yeah, I'm saying Frankie ain't Eagle in the first hole. It's 5-7.
No.
I mean, come on. I do think you should win, but I don't know that it'd be that easy, man.
The ball didn't roll. The
It
ball
bobbled around.
Totally
That'd also be really hard for us to like adjust to. If you just got dropped in the middle of this fucking golf course with all these guys wearing like sheep wool and it's like 12 degrees out and it's in the middle of Scotland in the 1860s, you think you're going to be able to compete with these guys? There's no chance. I don't care what clubs you have.
Dude, you're hypothetical about them not being able to kill you. If you hit a 290-yard drive and just 2-10 off the first hole, they would stick their mashie up your asshole and kill you immediately.
I don't know because Youngtown Morris was ripping the golf ball.
Dude, they also, though, they would play like St. Andrews would go play like Barrack, and all the accounts are that the St. Andrews guys would rip one down the fairway and they'd get up there. The crowds would like throw it into the bunker. These guys had to hit out of the bunker.
That was the origination of a Fore caddy because they had to go out there and make sure no one touched the balls. Because at the time, the professional golfers were like the scumbags of the earth because they were making money off of golf. So everyone would make sure that they were keeping it because amateurs were like the guys. Like if you were an amateur Scottish golfer, you were a nobleman. You were a high class guy that was like playing golf on his free time while he was a banker or whatever it may be. That's quite the scene, man. That is quite the scene. We went over there. There's great videos on our YouTube page and Rumble of us playing in Scotland. We played with the Hickory clubs at, what was it called?
Oh,
gosh. They had the horse track
Crail?
around it.
no.
Musselburgh. Great video.
Spelled like Musselburgh.
Trent and Riggs played great there. Trent, you played phenomenal
I
there.
really did. I might be behind the time. Like I need to go back.
Spoon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are ahead of their time. I'm way behind.
I
that
couldn't
was really
grip
fun.
it, man. I could not
That was
grip
really
those
fun.
things. It was hurting my hands. It was a really hard golf club to
That whole
hit.
Scotland trip was really fun, man. I really enjoyed the golf over there. We played Crail, Carnoustie, Western Gales, which is one of my favorite golf courses on earth. Like, I just really like the golf over there. I want to go back.
Dundonald.
Yep. Crail was really cool because it was like 6,000 yards, maybe like 5,800 or something. And it's like the 7th oldest course in the world. It was like par 67, and it was extremely fun and like not that easy start to finish. Remember the very beginning was like the first 5 holes were straight into the wind all along the water. And we were just like, are we at Pebble Beach? That place was really cool. We had that caddy. Our caddy was great. That was a good spot. That was
They had
a really
the wall,
cool spot.
the old school wall that went across one of those holes.
That's right. That's a big Scottish thing. You got to have a wall. Like I noticed they have that wall at Renaissance. And Renaissance is like pretty new, isn't it? Isn't it like an American family's behind that whole place?
Yeah, it was developed like a luxury resort. I think it was designed by like Trent Jones, one of the modern guys.
I kind of laughed when I saw their wall at Renaissance because like North Barrack has the most famous wall and it's like right next door. And you could tell even when you just turn on the TV that they're like, oh, we're going to do a new luxury resort version, but we're going to like keep a wall in there because this is that they just have walls around here.
It's a bootlegged wall. It's a fake ass wall.
What's the new course we played? It was like it was going down towards the water.
Kings Barnes?
No.
No.
That place
I know
was
what you're talking
outrageous.
Where they guys gave us a shot on the first tee, like a
Yes.
shot of
Was I there?
or something.
It was across the way from Renaissance. You could like see Renaissance, couldn't you?
Yeah.
I thought that was Grail.
No, you could see
No,
Renaissance.
dude, it was I know what I'm trying to think because that course was like brand new, and we were like, once this settles in, this is going to be the coolest course in the world. You could see that oil rig out there.
Yep,
in
the oil
sea.
rig. Dude, remember?
Was I awake?
We ate dinner right there. Like it was all glass
Was I
windows.
Not the whiskey tasting place, was it?
No, that was Dundonald, wasn't it?
Yeah, Prestwick, Dundonald, Carnoustie, Western
Oh, hold on.
Gales.
It's got crazy fescue everywhere. Like it was.
I know.
It was
I've got all the pictures. This place was insane. Dumbarnie Golf Lake.
Dumbarnie.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Phenomenal golf course. If
Really
you're going
good.
over to Scotland, make sure Dumbarnie's on your list. I can't imagine how good it is now. The fescue was new. Like everything was new. The grass was new. They had just been built when we played it. We were like the first people to do a video there, they said.
Dude, look how cool this place was. Remember you could see that
was
oil rig,
out
Trent
of
Daddy?
control.
Are you hitting the links this weekend? Well, guess what? The professionals are. You could be right there with them. Get on all the tee to green action at DraftKings Sportsbook from the first tee shot on Thursday through the final putt on Sunday. DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered with same game parlays, live betting, odds boosts, and so much more. I believe Dan Rappaport, you and Trent Ryan are on the same guy this week.
Yeah, we're both Colin Morikawa guys, but this is more of just general call to action. Guys, this is the last men's major championship until April. This is the last chance for a long shot. You think you're in your head, you're thinking, this guy's gonna win a major this year. This is his last chance. Your last
This
chance.
really is it. This really is it. I'm looking right now. We got Scottie Scheffler's plus 450, Rory plus 750, Xander plus 1200. My dad would probably be on that. Bryson plus 1400, Ludwig plus 1400, Colin plus 1400, Tommy Fleetwood. He contended last year. Remember that? The whole crowd was going for Tommy. Feels like 100 years.
First couple of days were electric until Brian Harmon squeezed the life out that thing.
He really did. Plus 2,200 for Tommy Fleetwood. Brooks Koepka's the most prominent major winner of the last 6 years. Plus 3,500. Bobby Mack, plus 3,500. Point is, there's a lot of cool options on the DraftKings Sportsbook. If you're new to DraftKings, you got to check this out. New customers bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. It's super easy for first timers to get started. Try betting something simple like just picking a golfer to win, which is the odds that I just went through. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the code FORE, F-O-R-E. That's code FORE for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Scottish golf is the shit. It really is.
We got to go back.
They just let dogs run around. Like, it's not just the whole culture behind it is so different than it is in America.
Dude, the best part is we haven't even touched Scottish golf. There's so much golf that we didn't even play.
Didn't get to play St. Andrews.
You want to know what's really disgusting is Emma's actually coming here on Saturday, and we're going to do a couple days of traveling next week and not play golf in Scotland.
Oh,
That's
Yeah,
sickening.
What are you going to do?
We're going to the Scottish Highlands, which is something that we've actually always wanted to do. It's like castles. And,
what in the Game of Thrones is that all about?
yeah, exactly. It's just like the middle. It's like up there. It's like the Harry Potter
Harrenhal.
train. You know the train they take to Harry Potter. That's in Scotland.
Okay.
Like that sort of vibe.
9 3/4.
Frankie's in now. Frankie's already.
Yeah,
Frankie's like,
no
don't play fucking
golf.
golf.
No golf.
I'm going to Ireland because when I was supposed to go with I'm taking my parents. My dad's like heart stops, so then we have to cancel that, and then now we have to. We're going in August, and I don't know if I'm bringing my clubs, but now I feel like I just have to. I mean, I'm pretty good about.
So I brought mine because I feel like you just never, when you're out here, you just never know.
Mhm.
And also, there's so much fucking daylight. Someone like the day might be over, and they're like, oh, we can go play 12 holes as a sunset.
There's gonna be a
at some
time I
course
wanna
you've never
rip
heard
it.
of,
We're
and
there
it's
for
going to
8
be an
days.
incredible experience.
I'm gonna want to play golf.
Take him.
I'm gonna take.
Bring him.
I'm gonna take.
You don't want to be there and not have him.
I'm gonna take them.
I will say after like last week, was it last week? 2 weeks ago, I guess, when I was like playing golf in Wisconsin and then did the crazy Amsterdam trip, and I just ship sticks to my clubs home. Traveling with no golf clubs is the best experience in history. It's so fucking easy.
Yeah, traveling without golf clubs is like, I mean,
It's a wholly different airport experience.
Dude, I got to the airport like 28 minutes before my flight,
Insane.
and you've got clear and TSA pre on the plane like 20 minutes before. And then when you leave, leaving the airport is incredible. The fact that you walk uninterrupted just into an Uber is you don't have to wait for anything. It's like it's unimaginably different.
It's so different.
Yeah,
so
nice.
different.
It's really nice. We got Colin Montgomerie has said that Tiger Woods should retire. There's some very funny
put him in
sass
home.
coming back his way. I saw Eamon Lynch said something. I think he said, yeah, it wasn't just 2 years ago that Colin Montgomerie was out there at age 59 missing cuts on the Champions Tour. So he was like chirping him back and forth. But he started getting absolutely roasted and ridiculed for this. Fun fact, Colin Montgomerie, one of my favorite guests that we had. Me and Trent actually drank like a bunch of, is it like whiskey? Is that what he was bringing? It was like the Loch Lomond.
Yeah, it was whiskey, yeah.
Open Championship whiskey. And he was a great guest. Mrs. Doubtfire is kind of what everybody called him growing up. We used to make fun of him in St. Louis all the time. And then he came in and was just a real joy to be around. So first time I had seen or heard his name in a long time. And then when I saw him say that, I kind of chuckled to myself because that's a ridiculous comment, but it's all over the golf.
I used to use him in the old Tiger Woods video games. Colin Montgomerie. It was such a random guy to pick.
He's a throwback. When you watch him play golf, if you watch clips of him now, you'd think that he was like playing in the 1930s. In the sense of the way he carried himself, his swing was like so old school and like long. He played all these fades. Looks like it wasn't only 15 or whatever it was, 20 years ago that he was relevant in the world stage.
He does. He looks like he's like always in black and white.
Yeah,
I'm saying,
now.
like he looks like he'd be playing against the old Tom.
Yeah.
He had one of the more iconic Tiger's peak era comments too, where he was like, I think if anybody's watching this, it's very clear that we're playing for second place. He's got a 9-stroke lead, and I'm pretty sure by the end of today that'll be significantly more. And that I think when Tiger won by like 12 or 15 is when he said that.
I think that was 1997, right when he won his first Masters, and I think that the look in his face is like, oh fuck, this is the next 2 decades.
Golf's over. We can't. There's none of us are playing for anything that matters anymore. We had a little bit of just a detour from, well, we could talk about a couple players. I don't know if anybody wants to comment on Bryson. I mean, Bryson's had the best major championship year of anybody thus far. He finished, I think, like top T8 or something at the Masters, second, where he almost won the PGA, and then obviously won the U.S. Open. So we don't really ever know how to like judge the live guys coming in. But last time we saw Bryson, he won the U.S. Open. I imagine he's going to be a problem at Royal Troon.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it, Riggs, when we had Dana on the podcast. You know, he finished, I think, top 10 in both the live events since Pinehurst. It seem like he puts all of his energy and emotion into those. Seems like a little bit of a different.
He's a bit
vibe.
of a showman out there, you know. I'm noticing like he put on a funny hat in Spain. You know, he's kind of like, yeah. I'm with you. I don't know that he's all the way in it.
So I think he's going to be extra locked in. I mean, and I think this major, as we've talked about on the show too, it's going to go a long way in determining how we look at 2024 in golf in hindsight. If Scottie wins, it is one of the 5 best seasons. It's a Tiger Woods season. 2 majors, 7 wins. Like that just doesn't happen. If Bryson wins, then it's like, who gets the player of the year? Bryson has 2 majors. Scottie won all of these tournaments. Or it could be somebody completely out of left field. Brian Harman last year. They're actually kind of 2 last year with Brian Harman and Wyndham Clark. No one had their eyes on them. But the interesting thing, both Scottie and Bryson, not a whole lot of Open Championship success to their names. Bryson's got a T8 in 2022. Scottie's only played in 3. He finished T8, T21, T23. So neither of them have had a chance to win the Open in the past, but obviously they're different players now than they were then. But let's remember that this week is more different than all the other majors. It's a very, very different proposition. So don't be surprised if you see some names up there that you don't expect to see.
Scottie only playing in 3 is stunning. Just
kind of wild,
like,
right? Because 2020 got canceled, and so
boy, it just feels like he's been around for 9 years already. My official pick is Colin Morikawa.
You were but just made that video. Yes, that's mine too.
Yes, absolutely. And I thank you to DraftKings. I won $10K at Pinehurst. I bet Bryson. So if you want to ride with me, it's Colin this week. I got him at plus 1,600. It's my only bet of the week, just like I did at Pinehurst. Colin Morikawa. Let's ride, baby.
Did you see yesterday at all?
No.
he was up there. He didn't win. He finished like whatever.
Oh yeah,
top 10. He was like Rom level of annoyed. Like he was really.
What was
in a
that
mood
picture of
yesterday.
him like high-fiving the ground? on
Yeah,
his Instagram?
he acted like a little crazier yesterday than I've ever seen him act. Maybe
That's fair. He's
Yeah,
on every
he's
leaderboard.
Frustrated.
he is frustrated. He hasn't won in a
He's not
while.
winning.
Yeah.
He's
Right.
on
Yeah.
every leaderboard every Sunday.
Plus 1,600.
Yes, sir.
Wow, I'm in.
He's got a fun golf swing to watch, man. He's that slow tempo back, and then
I
he
love
just
it.
fucking rips. He's a good choice this week. I like him a lot out there. Scottie, I just was randomly looking. I mean, I know we've talked about it, but Scottie's last 10 results: first, tied for second, first, tied for eighth, tied for second, first, tied for 41st, first. Those are his
Awesome.
last.
What
10
are his
starts.
odds on DraftKings?
Plus 450, right?
Four something.
Woo.
Bryson had good value. He was like plus 1,200.
Well, I mean, it's what I was saying earlier. He's really not had any. I mean, he had one good Open. He's played in a bunch, and he hits the ball miles high in the air. And also links golf is a very inexact science. There's a lot of humps and bumps, which would seem to kind of fly in the face of his style. But I get the sense he's going to relish the
Pinehurst.
challenge.
I saw a clip of Tiger hitting a stinger today, and it got me excited.
Oh yeah.
I'm not going to bet on him, but boy, it got me.
He
a
also
little
looked
excited.
amazing. He was wearing that dad
He
hat.
looks
fit.
thinner. He
does
looks
look
like
thinner.
15 pounds
He
thinner.
looks like there was one picture that came out. He looked like he was 25 years
Yes,
old.
that was the one with the
And-
dad hat on. The black.
Yeah.
He had that like black hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looked
I
good.
mean, I'm always going to sprinkle some on Tiger just because I can't be
You
the
have
guy
to.
that didn't when he wins. But I hate the forecast for him too. Like it's
Yeah.
just chilly and rainy, and I don't know that that's Mr. Wood's favorite thing. But he was over there. He's doing the thing. He was there like fucking Saturday. I feel like he was out there on the golf course hitting shots and getting geared up. So Tiger's out there early. He's got on all his Sunday Red stuff. He played with JT and Homa on Monday. So he's doing the thing. It's like we kind of forget the Tiger's around. It's interesting. Like he doesn't get talked about nearly as much as I feel like he did even a year ago. I don't know.
Yeah,
if that's
well,
just 'cause,
there
like,
was the novelty of when he came back from the accident, and then now it's like, okay, seen him miss a couple cuts,
Right,
we've seen him. It's like, all right,
Same playbook.
He looks 20 years old.
When
there.
you-
sort of
he
like
looks really
Anthony
young
Kim,
now.
right? When Anthony Kim first came back, it was like a big deal, and then once you just don't play that well, even with Tiger Woods, there's still going to be attention, but not nearly as much.
Right, like it feels like he's not even playing in the same tournaments as Bryson and Scottie. You're talking about him in a different way because it doesn't feel like he can win, but it's like he's still there.
Yeah, it is a different feeling. I don't know how that turned so quickly. I mean, I guess it is just his play and whatnot. But even like at Pinehurst when he was playing Thursday, Friday, he walked by. It was almost like, all right, kids, like wave at Tiger Woods. Like he's
Oh.
walking by. And then that was the whole experience. They're like, all right, here come the real golfers. So I'm with you. I watched him hit that stinger and I was like, oh shit. All right. Mr. Woods has still got it. And
Well,
you're
this
like,
is the week they call him. You can call him the artist. Everybody calls him
Tiger
the artist.
the artist.
And once you get across the pond and the courses are a
Yeah.
little different, he's the artist.
We got to talk about Titch.
Little pitch aloft.
Well,
What the hell is that guy talking about?
Titch is a real word.
Is it
Yes,
just
Yeah.
a titch?
it's just like a little more.
I've never heard that used in a golf context.
Not in a
ever.
golf.
Can you play the clip?
Oh,
Yeah.
Are you able to?
I
Yeah.
kind of like it.
Alex-
We played like
Yeah,
7
yeah.
clips, and we never do that ever again.
Alex Bush. People probably don't know this, but Alex Bush is overwhelmed today because our system.
I
has
gotta
been,
find the clip real quick.
We've had
Oh,
to stop
shit.
2 or 3 times, so we might be throwing too much on
Yeah,
his
yeah.
plate.
The computer's been falling.
yeah, we had our flow's been a little off. We had to restart twice, which is a little bit unfortunate, but I think we've gotten through it. Hopefully we can pull up the
Titch.
Titch clip.
Just a little
But
Titch.
Yeah. Tiger
It's
the
so
artist.
good. It's so
Tiger the
good.
artist.
It's the week of Tiger the artist.
He's
I love
dripping sweat in the
I just
video.
don't want to get that cut running away from me.
It's so
that.
good,
He's the
man.
best, man. He really is.
Oh god.
Oh boy, signing into Twitter. All right, let's talk about something else.
All right, forget it.
Foreplay is sponsored by BetterHelp. Comparison is the thief of joy, and it's easy to envy other people's lives. It might look like they have it all together on perhaps their Instagrams, their social media accounts, but in reality, they probably do not. It's incredibly difficult for everyone to have everything together, be in a good mental state every day, to wake up happy and confident. Therapy can help you focus on what you want instead of what others have, so you can start living your best life. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suitable to your schedule. People work on their bodies, on their golf game, and all kinds of stuff. People don't work necessarily hard enough, Dan, on their mind and their mental health.
It's a great way to improve your life and to do it quickly. It's no longer something to be ashamed of, something to be proud of. We're very pro therapy on this show.
And all you got to do for BetterHelp, it's just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Stop comparing and start focusing with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/Fore today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Fore. Visit BetterHelp.com/Fore to get 10% off of your first month. We had a little bit of handicap controversy last week with the Barstool Classic Iowa stop. Well, controversy is good for the Classic in general, I would say. You know, it's nice to just, it gets the juice going. It gets people talking about it. For anyone who missed it, so there's a guy on TikTok, Yip Strickler, I think that was his name. He goes around and, you know, he kind of identifies people who sandbag in all kinds of different stuff. It could be a scramble. It could be a member guess, whatever it is. And then he combs through sort of their entire handicap history and then, you know, puts it out there in a TikTok-y way, essentially saying, look at these sandbaggers. Did that for the Barstool Classic for one of our teams that qualified last Monday in Iowa. A few things about it. Overall, I think people hate sandbagging. It stinks. There's always people that come out and say, like, why don't you just do a straight up tournament? Well, then it's just the USGA 4-ball. And if you're not like a scratch or better, you have absolutely zero chance of contending or playing. So that's not that fun. Golf has handicaps for a reason. It's very fun to be able to have any skill level, any age whatsoever. You have yourself a handicap and you could pretty much have matches. If you go through all the matches that we've had, travel series throughout the years, the dozens and dozens of videos that we've put up, and we used to do that format very often, but it was like pretty much 50-50 the amount of times that Trent or Frankie or Lurch or myself won a golf match because you could have the handicap situation. You could have anybody compete against anybody. So it's just a lot more fun. That's obviously the way that we do it. But that also lends itself to, if you're using handicaps to try to equalize the field, people can try to manipulate their handicaps so they get more help than they should. And if that's the case, then they're going to have kind of artificially inflated scores and blah, blah, blah. There's 20 grand for first place at the Barstool Classic now. Even making it to the championship is a whole fucking thing. We put out endless footage whenever we get to Greyhawk every year of how cool it is. We got the floating thing out by the pond. They paint the grass, a huge Barstool logo. There's like a car or easy go kart you can win on one of the par threes, and all that golf and food and beverage is covered. So making it to the championship in and of itself is worth X amount of value. So if people are cheating the system, blah, blah, blah. So I understand why people call it out. Totally understand that. The thing that kind of annoyed me, and it kind of goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the show, is how quickly people are just instantly trying to basically hate and shit on other people. That's what drives me crazy. And I felt extremely terrible for two people who come play in our event. All they're really, guilty of is they spend their hard-earned money, $400, $500, $600 a person to play in our event. They support us. They come out, give it their best. One guy has a career round, which again, according to their story, has a career round. And then what they get for that is over the next 2 or 3 days, their names get absolutely skewered in golf circles and their reputations get tarnished, especially when you're not used to that. If we get shit on all the time on the internet, it still sucks, but you get used to it. These guys aren't even in that world. They're parents, they're working people, whatever it is. So it's like,
he's like a normal person.
That's what I thought about. Dude, those two dudes are getting buried.
And so that part of it really just rubbed me the wrong way. And so obviously went through. We worked with Lisa and Taylor and Mancini to try to go through. Like, all right, let's just look at the whole thing the best that we possibly can. And then obviously I put out a pretty long video kind of combing through everything that we did to try to come to the best conclusion and blah, blah, blah. Again, there's no way that from any of the evidence that we saw that you could take any action. You can't DQ people because people think this guy shouldn't have shot 77. That's not grounds for disqualifying somebody. That would be insane. Like I said in the video, everybody's innocent until proven guilty. And you could think that it's sketchier, that shouldn't happen. But bottom line is that's what they turned in, and it is what it is. If somebody really, really wants to cheat in a golf tournament, you pretty much can do it. You can actually almost do it on the PGA Tour. We've fucking seen it where people get, you have super slow-mo video, whether it's Patrick Reed or these different instances where people lose their shit. And you have to imagine the amount of times that something like that has occurred that wasn't even captured on video. So now imagine in just a normal tournament, we do 25 stops around the country. If you want to show up and have 18 clubs in your bag, you could probably get away with it unless your fucking playing partners go scour through your bag, or we're not counting every club. If you want to go out and you actually hit one over into the right shit, but your playing partners weren't looking, so you drop a ball and you claim you made a 4 when you really made a 5 or a 6, you could definitely get away with that. If you really want to cheat, you could cheat. There's no way to police it 100%. And it's the same way with handicaps. You kind of go through the best that you can. So anyways, that turned into a whole thing. I mean, every account in the world picked it up. Zaire was tweeting it. It had millions of views on Twitter. It had millions of views on Instagram. So we responded to it. And like I said, came up with the best conclusion, which is, I think, to do nothing. I think the most likely scenario is these guys didn't feel like they were doing anything wrong whatsoever. They weren't out trying to sandbag. The one guy is the president of like this cool little golf community where they play a 3,000-yard course. He's on the board. I doubt he would be in that position if he was known for running around town trying to sandbag tournaments. And his playing partner doesn't get to play much golf. I think he posted 3 scores the entire year. They play this little pitch and putt thing, the whole deal. And so if anything, they maybe should have posted some scores from their league, but in their league, they play winter rules, which means you can literally just play the ball up wherever you want. They didn't think you could post winter rules scores, so they weren't. And the ones this guy was posting were in the 90s anyway, so it's not like he was posting all these awesome scores. So again, based on all that evidence, we're definitely not going to DQ the guys. And if anything, my whole takeaway was just that, like, every fucking comment under every tweet that reposted the video was like, ban these motherfuckers, burn these guys, put them in fucking jail. And it just like, it was a very shitty insight into how bad the internet can be, because I think the most likely scenario was this poor guy just went out, shot a round that he's never shot before, was excited about it, and the reward that he got was everybody fucking shit on him on the internet. So I thought that kind of sucked.
Yeah, this guy that does all the digging, why doesn't he do the digging towards the people and get the answer before he makes this video? Like, why couldn't he reach out to these guys and really, like, if he really cared that much, how do you just put these people on blast without getting any of the information that you ended up getting? That's the part that drives me crazy. Like, if you want to cheat in this thing, you can. You can just have, right. Like, if you go up to your foursome and you're like, hey, we're just everyone making birdies today. Like, we're all just, like, every single guy, we're just going to post like a 59 each, and then we'll all just go on to Arizona. Like, you obviously run the risk of running up to the wrong guys. We're like, no, absolutely not, dude. We're normal people. And now you're DQ'd because you just asked us to do that. Fuck you. I'm not fucking doing that. Which is, I would hope, 99.999% of the people that play in the Barstool Classic. But come on, man. Like, give these guys a break. I mean, it's the Barstool Classic. I had my father-in-law playing in it. The music was stopped. I mean, like, people are out there to have a good time. There's obviously a lot of value towards it in the end. People put their hard-earned money into it. And that's why you have to try and preserve the fact that guys are allowed to shoot their career around. They're allowed to do that. That's something that is allowed to be done.
Exactly. No, 100%. And that's, exactly like you said, Frankie. I think it would be really, really unlikely that somebody would show up, talk to their playing partners, because we put you with people you've never really met before, unless we have groups. We do have some groups that are our family, our friends that we put together, and they're not even trying to qualify. They're out there to have a good time. We have sponsorship groups. But if you're one of the normal groups that signs up, pays, and plays, you get matched up randomly with another group. You don't know those other two. We do that for, it's just tournament protocol, to be honest with you. A lot of it is like, it's a marker reason, the same way they had fucking 4 caddies back in 1860 so people wouldn't cheat. It's like, you're playing with guys you don't know. It becomes less likely that the two of you could try to rig it or shave strokes so that you could both qualify. But you're 100% right. If you really wanted to, and you're 9 holes in and you're like, hey, both our teams are pretty close down the stretch, we'll like kind of like fudge your numbers and you could fudge ours too. Right. That way we can all go to Greyhawk for free.
It's endless.
You could definitely do that. You could definitely do that and get away with it. But if that does happen a few times a year, even, I would say like that reward from those people is not worth like how shitty you are and how you just missed the whole point of the whole tournament. I don't think it really ever happens, but guess what? If it really does, like, good for you. I hope when you put your head down your pillow, you're a happy person, but you're probably not. There's probably something missing. And that reward and you getting to go to Greyhawk, I don't think it's going to make up for that deficit or whatever the fuck led you to do that. And I think you could apply that across the board to everybody. So again, in the investigation, it was very clear to me that these guys weren't those kinds of guys, and they didn't deserve a lot of the negativity that came their way. Now, that doesn't mean that like there's two different forms of like not playing by the rules, right? Like one of them is malicious. And it's like Lance fucking Armstrong. It's like he clearly went out there, deliberately knew he's taking something that was against the rules to gain an advantage. There's also another way, like if you tested positive for some substance that was a side substance and something that you were taking that you didn't know was against the rules, you're still guilty and you still deserve to be banned or DQ'd and not get the reward for winning. But it wasn't malicious. You could you're like, fuck me, I blew that. And I think that's the same you could apply for golf, where it's like somebody could have tweaked something or done something improperly that they didn't know was going to be an issue or illegal. And that's very different than somebody deliberately cheating. I think in this instance, it wasn't proven or shown that these guys did either one of those things. If anything, it was shown that people rushed to fucking judgment over their handicaps and about why this didn't get posted and that this guy shouldn't have shot 77 because it's incredibly unlikely. But that ain't proof of anything. There was no concrete proof. And so, like I said, I hope these guys, they go to Greyhawk, they have a great time, enjoy themselves, and that this stuff doesn't stick, because I really did feel terrible for these guys that kind of happened to their names.
That blows. That blows.
Sucked.
And you do 50% handicap, and like you have to play well to win the Classic. That's just a simple fact. And if you just don't play well, and people are going to get pissed. So it's a lot of people that moan and groan at the end of it, but you still got to play well regardless of the handicap system.
Exactly. And I said this in the video, like we get this to a small degree every single stop. Every single stop. We get people bitch about this team. They shouldn't have shot that. There's no way this handicap shot that score. That's impossible. You got 108 golfers at each stop. And to beat 100 other people, you're going to have to just play really well. That's how golf works. That's just how the event is. Like,
speaking of playing really well, real quick, Alistair.
Our boy Alistair's on a bit of a heater. I had that on my notes, and it's a great little segue because, a little positivity. Someone who doesn't need any handicaps. It's not net. Alistair's going out there on the Korn Ferry Tour. Finished 4th this last week. He finished T for 4 the week before, and he finished T 16, I think, the event
up
before
to 38th in the points.
So he's gone from 111th in points to 38th, the top 30 at the end of the year, get their PGA Tour card. So if he kind of keeps on the trend that he's on, our boy could. I think there's 9 events left that I saw. And 3 of them are
plenty of time.
Events.
Plenty of time.
So he's got a lot of time to make up a lot of room. He hasn't even won yet. Like you said, he's got those 2 4th-place finishes. So if he really kind of starts to close and keeps playing the way he's playing, he could have his PGA Tour card going to next year, which is life-changing. So shout out to Alistair. In top 75, keep your Korn Ferry Tour card. So it's funny, we were a couple weeks ago, we were in this spot where we weren't sure, even if he's able to get an exemption into a PGA Tour event, is it worth it? Because then you could miss a Korn Ferry start, and you don't get points, like we said, for playing well in a PGA Tour event, which sucks. So we got to make sure you're in the top 75, and then all of a sudden he's vaulted up to 38. So he's in a great fucking spot. Go Alistair. Okay.
I think we have to head out of here.
Oh, we might have to get out of this room.
So I think, this is what happens when we do the podcast from the office.
I'm at the Ibis London Heathrow Hotel. I'm having no issues today in the Barstool office.
It's crazy. We had a bad break today.
We gotta leave. We gotta leave the studio. So we're getting kicked out. This is I wish I had my little basketball hoop behind me at my house right now.
Oh no!
Tough.
I know.
We started a tradition and we can't even do it.
It's sickening.
First show afterwards with just the tradition's broken. He can't fire at it.
It was great. I oddly had one buddy in Spain and one buddy in England, both while that game was going on. So I was getting Snapchats from watch parties. It was very weird. It was out of my two of my best friends were just in both home countries. It was bizarre.
That's wild.
Yeah, it was nuts, and not for any football reason. So it was bizarre. But yeah, I think we got to get out of here. That's really all I got. What about you?
Alistair crossed 600K for earnings between Korn Ferry and PGA Tour this year.
There you go.
You guys can continue on though. I think we're right.
We'll keep barreling through here. We got a couple things to do, but
all right.
You guys are getting kicked out. Yep. So
how are we getting kicked out and you're not?
I am. We'll just do a new link and start it up.
All right. Well,
so this is the 4th new link we got.
Yep, 4th link today.
All right. All right, fellas.
I had a reminder on my phone to tell a story about how the New York Rangers in their first Stanley Cup they won, their goalie got hurt and they called down a 50-year-old executive and he played goaltender for the New York Rangers in the Stanley Cup finals. And won the game for them. That's how fucking pathetic that organization is. Is that like an old man came down? That's when they won the Stanley Cup. Do you understand that? Like, that's how long ago we're talking about a team winning Stanley Cups. Is that an executive who was like a retired goalie from like the 30s came down from the fucking top of the fucking.
You're still going?
Yeah, I thought you
see
hit.
how different.
No, I didn't. I just noticed Dan was there.
Yeah,
If you did that now, that guy would give up 15 goals.
It'd also be the biggest story in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. What was the guy for the Hurricanes that came in at one point and got like a win?
Now that I've said the story, I'm going to say his name. You guys can all look up the story. It's in my reminders. His name is Lester Patrick, 1928.
1928?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. All right. I'll see you.
All right. See ya. Hey guys, I would like to talk to you about my new favorite shorts from Peter Millar, the Bingham Performance Short. With the temperatures as high as they are, these shorts are my go-to every day. It does appear that temperatures are incredibly high everywhere. Does it feel like that right now?
Nope, not in Scotland. I'll tell you that much.
True. They're definitely not going to be that high in Scotland. But I'm looking like, I know, like Alistair, I was texting with Alistair and some people that went out and watched Alistair in Colorado this last week. And they're like, oh, yeah, temperatures were in the hundreds. I'm looking in New York. It's like temperatures are in the 95, 96 range. Temperatures are crazy right now. You could argue, depending on your environmental, beliefs, that like we've been warned this was coming for a long time. Point is, it's really hot in a lot of places here in the United States. These new shorts that I'm loving, the Bingham Performance shorts, they're made from high-performance Italian fabric that features an unbelievable amount of stretch and even features a zipper security pocket so you can safely stash essentials. They're made by Peter Millar, so obviously they're perfect on the golf course. Just think about the polos that you love from Peter Millar, their Perth Performance pullover, the hoodies that are all phenomenal, iconic, top of the line. They put that same care, innovation into their shorts. And they also shine as an everyday casual short ready for anything this summer brings, going out to the bar, dinner, whatever it is. Head on over to petermillar.com/foreplay. Check out the Bingham Performance short. That's petermillar.com/foreplay. And check out the rest of Peter Millar's luxury level crown crafted lineup. That is petermillar.com/foreplay. Real quick, it's just myself and Dan now on the soccer front. I know you're kind of our resident soccer guy there, Dan.
Yeah.
Football. Couple big finals on Sunday. The Spain-England final was that was one where I think everybody just knew Spain's a better team. Spain's probably going to win. They were the best team in the tournament. They were the favorite going in. They won. Scored a late goal. It really wasn't that chaotic, that crazy, that different. If people aren't into like soccer that much, not really that much stood out. Other than I would say England is just. I love all the like. I saw somebody had put in Wales on the beach in giant letters like it is not coming home. So all that stuff that's going on socials making me chuckle, but I didn't think there were any massive takeaways from that game.
Yeah, another heartbreak for England. They've been close a bunch of tournaments in a row now. Yeah, it's I always describe soccer there is sort of like if you put football, basketball, baseball, and hockey and combine them all into one. That's how important it is to the people. So there's definitely, I'm in London right now. There's definitely like a little bit of people are pretty upset. A little bit of like a collective malaise. I think it actually would have been kind of cool. I guess it wouldn't have been cool to be stuck in this hotel room. But if they had won, I'm sure it'd be a very different energy than there is right now.
Am I wrong in that England like hasn't won shit?
So they've never won a Euro, and they won one World Cup at home in 1966. And other than that, they haven't won anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're kind of like they're like the Cowboys if the Cowboys were never good. Like never actually won.
Right. I mean, they do got that World Cup. You can't take that away. That's big. It's been a long time. That was a really fucking long time ago. Having never won the Euro is unbelievable. I was kind of looking because during the game I was trying to get myself hyped up into the history of it and like, okay, what does this really mean? And I looked up like all the results from the history of the Euro, and I was like, couldn't believe that England wasn't ever there as the champion.
Yeah,
they're not the only time they've ever lost in the final was like two times or the last time, right? So it's like back to back. I think that they've lost in the final. Other than that, from what I could tell, they hadn't even really been there, which is nuts. And then the one World Cup, that's huge. But yeah, poor England. I do think I mean, the English Premier League, that's the top league, right? Is that the top league in the world?
Yeah, I mean, Spain's got an amazing league
La
too.
Liga.
I mean, yeah, Real Madrid, they just won their what I think 16th Champions League. So they're the best team probably like in Europe right now. And Barcelona, I mean, it's like debatable. Premier League's probably stronger 1 through 10 or 1 through 20 rather. But La Liga has, Real Madrid and Barcelona are, two teams that could beat anybody. But yeah, England definitely has a certain. That's why other countries hate them. Like I posted. I'm a big England fan. I just love England. For people are asking me, like, I just love the country of England. I love soccer. I love the Premier League.
London,
I love Man
maybe
United.
my favorite city I've ever visited is London. I fucking
yeah,
love
it. I love English culture. I love everything about it. So I posted something and I got a couple of responses from some like Irish people and Scottish people, and they are not fans. And I think it's because there is this sort of arrogance, like almost like American exceptionalism, but without like America wins at a lot of things.
Yeah, there's probably a little bit of like an imperialistic hate there from those two places. I would say that goes back a really long time of like fuck England for sure. So I could see that. That almost kind of makes me like England a little bit more. That everyone's like they were, they had their tentacles all over the world, dominating the entire world because they had this navy. Unfortunately, like steel was discovered, and then all of a sudden their navy wasn't that great anymore. But yeah, that goes back a really long time. I could see why people hate England. I feel bad. I remember the World Cup when Harry Kane sent that PK like 25 feet over the net. I'll never forget that from the World Cup 2 years ago. And then last night we had kind of a wild scene in Miami. Argentina, Colombia in the Copa America had won it once, but it was in like the early 2000s when Brazil sent their B team, and I think Argentina like wasn't even in it or something like that. So they hadn't really had anything in like the more modern era on that big of a stage, but their team was sick. The whole first half, or first part of the first half, Colombia was dominating, it felt like, and they had like a lot of control to play. Argentina's the number one ranked team in the world. They just won the World Cup. They won the Copa America 4 years ago. The whole thing was a shit show from the beginning. It started like an hour and a half late because the crowds down in Miami at Hard Rock, and I was combing through a lot of this. It was absolute chaos. People were trying to get in. Thousands of people that didn't have tickets. It started to get to the point where and we're having the World Cup here in 2 years. So everybody's panicking about the Copa America was a disaster in terms of a lot of the logistical stuff. Now, when we have the World Cup here in 2 years, which is way, 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 way bigger, everybody's coming in from all over the world, that it's going to be a mess. The way I understand this, I was trying to figure out how this shit happens. The way I understand this, thousands of people were trying to get into the stadium that didn't have tickets. And it created that they were on the precipice of like a stampede. If you go look at some of the horrible stampedes that have happened at like concerts and such, like stampedes
Travis
could kill hundreds of people could die in a stampede. And so it seems like it seems like the security thought that they were right on the edge of a potential stampede. So they just started letting people in that didn't even have tickets, being like, we got to relieve this pressure right now. And then we'll kind of figure it out. That led to like thousands of people being inside the stadium that shouldn't have been in there. So then they tried to clear those people out. All kinds of videos of people being able to just jump fences and roofs of like little establishments that were near Hard Rock and just get into the stadium. So it was fucking chaos for people trying to get into this thing.
Well, dude, so that was chaos. And I don't know if you saw a couple days before in the Uruguay-Colombia match, the Uruguayan players went into the stands. Like Malice. They were fighting people. Yeah, it was chaos. Copa America is always chaos. Kind of shocking to see that on American soil. But that's one of the reasons why I said, and I had a weird thing this weekend. This is just kind of a personal thing that do you like? I feel like you usually do chime in, but like when something like the Trump thing happens, like, I was talking to Emma. I was like, I really feel like I should say something, but like, I'm not a fucking politician. I'm not like a famous person, but like everyone is saying this online. Like, should I say something? And she's like, well, do you have something to say? And I'm like, well, nothing beyond just, this is terrible. Like, but I don't know. And then when the Copa America thing happened, I was like about to fire off being like, what the fuck is going on in our country right now? That was when I actually had a thought, and I decided not to send it because I was about to go on an international flight, and I wasn't exactly sober, and I was like, all right, let's just let this go. But do you have that feeling sometimes when like you have to weigh in?
Yeah, definitely. For me, it's a little bit more in politics than other sports because I started doing politics at Barstool for a while. So like, I still feel an obligation sometimes to weigh in, but I also it's so risky with politics. Like you say anything, and you gotta really dot your I's and cross your T's if you're gonna weigh in, because like anything that it's so combed through more so than any other tweet that you could all of a sudden just start getting people real mad online when you didn't mean to at all. So you got to be incredibly careful. I will say, like, during like football season and stuff, I really am able to kind of watch without weighing in because nobody on earth expects me to say anything about football.
Yeah.
So if I'm like watching Monday Night Football and there's a big thing that goes on, it's nice because I can just not worry about having to feeling like I have to tweet about it. But I mean, sometimes you do want to chime in. It's fun to be part of the conversation, whatever. But it's nice in certain instances where you can like know there's absolutely no pressure for you to say anything. Whereas like politically, I feel like sometimes I do kind of feel like an obligation to say something.
Right. Yeah. I guess it's different for you. So I ended up not, because I was like, I don't fucking have anything to say about this. But it was just interesting. Like when something happens in news and golf, I'm like, immediately call Rob. That's like first thing I do is like, all right, what are we doing? Like, how are we going to do this? This was such a massive thing, and I was actually able to like process it like a normal person and be like, holy shit, this is crazy. And then my thoughts flipped to, I can't believe how close this was. Like, what happens if it goes the other ways? And then I was thinking about who would be the nominee and all of these things if he got, and it was just like all a thing in my head. And then I could just have like a nice civil conversation about it a couple hours later without feeling pressure of like my initial takes being judged.
We were doing that too afterwards, like, because we were playing golf, all this stuff was unfolding. We had a drink after. We were going through everything that you just kind of said. And we were talking. I was like, I don't think, because it sounds like Trump just announced his VP, by the way, which is
it JD Vance?
Yeah, it's the Ohio Senator, JD
Great
Vance.
Book.
But like,
did you read that book?
No, I actually haven't.
You got to read it.
It was weird because up until this moment, if that bullet had taken Trump out on Saturday, he hadn't announced a VP pick. And he was the only one really with any like delegates from a primary. So it's like, what would have happened? Well, and then now they're at the national convention this week. So it's all conjecture on like, obviously would have had to postpone the convention and they would have had to come up with some way to determine who the candidate is going to be, which all sounds very trivial too. And you're doing all that in result to the fact that like, a father and a grandfather like was just murdered on TV, which would be horrific. And like all that was, well, you're right, playing out. And it's a little tricky for me in the political realm because I do have a lot to say. I did for years. I wrote over 1,000 blogs on this type of stuff. And even weighing back in a little bit almost like guarantees you're going to weigh in like fully. And so it's like, I almost just try to stay out of it, but it's hard. This has been, I think I saw a tweet that was being retweeted earlier, and like, because there's still a bunch of political accounts that I follow or news accounts or whatever, where it was like, it said something to the fact of this went from the most boring, non-newsworthy election in history to the most newsworthy like 2 weeks in political election history in the fastest flash that I've ever seen. I mean, there was nothing. It was pretty much presumed for years that like Trump's going to win the nomination on the Republican side. Obviously, the incumbent Biden's going to win the nomination on the other side. These are really the two guys that for the last 8 years kind of have been like the top people at each side. We've now seen this play out, 2 times in a row where Biden has been the nominee, 3 times in a row where Trump's been the nominee. Biden was the VP for 8 years before that. It was very malaise because it's like, okay, these are just the 2 guys that we've had for the last 12 years. And it is what it is, was kind of what we knew. Someone's going to go to the polls in November and we'll see what happens. To all of a sudden, the debate just triggered everything, man. It triggered this like mutiny. You had this crazy phenomenon going on where you knew everyone on the Democratic side privately was talking about if they should get rid of Biden. Publicly, they weren't coming out to say it because they didn't want to be anti-Biden. And if you come out and say it and then Biden stays in the race, you're like instantly weakening your own candidate because everybody knows that you were thinking he should be in the race. So all that was going on. Meanwhile, he's like trying to go out and put the fires out. but they're trying to be really careful. He did like the interview with the ABC interview. It was like, okay. Then he would do like a pretty solid like campaign. Then he has the press conference where he leads the press conference. Like right beforehand, he had introduced Zelensky as like President Putin, and then he mixes up VP Harris for Trump, and you're like, oh my God. But then he actually did decently well for the rest of the presser, and you're like, what? And then Trump gets shot after all that. You're like, what in the literal fuck? It's just turned into the most newsworthy election over the last 2 or 3 weeks that you could possibly imagine. So yeah, for me, it's like I've been consuming all this stuff. I said this last time with Kirk about it quite a bit, where I'm listening to a bunch of podcasts that I didn't even know existed. I'm watching the news. I just like got to hear what people are saying. And I still think like we could have an instance where the Democratic Party convinces themselves that like Biden can't win, and they decide to trying to persuade him to like leave in the race. It's nuts.
This threw a whole spanner into that conversation because they had to put everything on hold for a little while, right? Out of respect for what happened, and they got to change their ads strategy and this, that. Like, it's just a whole massive new variable because that picture and that incident, like the two defining images from this, and there's never like defining image. I guess, Mitt Romney with the binders back in the day, and Hillary Clinton.
Even
with
that pale, like that tells you like that was
this
like
is
the
like
big
the
thing,
debate,
and that pales.
President of the United States who can't speak, and then the other guy gets shot, and one of them is like the guy's like blah blah blah, and the other guy's holding his fist up, being like, "We're gonna fight."
I know it's a golf podcast, but we live in America. We only get a presidential election every 4 years. Like this is, and it's taken over the news the last 2 weeks. It really has, and it's been riveting, man. It is. I live for elections. I said it on the last show. I think they're so fascinating. And for it to get to this point, you've got like Biden really is just trying to run out the clock, right? So that like the more and more time that goes by, the less that they really even have the option to try to convince him to step aside. And so he's putting his foot down, and he's been able to buy enough time over these last few weeks where it doesn't get crazy loud that he should step aside. So now, I mean, the RNC is going to happen. So he can't really do much this week. So then you're down to like 3 or 4 weeks that they've got left if they really want to do something, which is no time. And so they're like, so now, I mean, they're pretty much locked in, I feel like. And if they're locked in, then they're like all these quotes from all these different folks on the DNC side. Clearly, we're like, this guy should step aside. But now they're going to have to go back and be like, he's our guy. Let's go, Joe. So the whole thing is fucking.
And they have to recalibrate, like, when are they, because so much of this election on the Democratic side has been like Trump is a threat, and Trump is like, can't let this happen. When do they start that up again? Because they can't be doing that right now,
Nope, you can't have that rhetoric now because, right, obviously you get painted as the guys that are the reason that this is happening. And so, yeah, it's fascinating. And you really don't have that much different of a scenario on the other side, where for the past like 8 years, there's a ton of people that are high ranking in the Republican side that are not Trump fans, but they're like, this guy just keeps winning elections in the landslide when it comes to our primaries. So we're supporting this guy. So it's fucking wild. It's so entertaining to me. And as a guy, like,
you've been all podcast.
God, dude, I love going back and watching elections from over the last 150 years. There's like fascinating tales about different elections that you didn't realize. And you see some of these speeches that these guys gave, and it actually makes some of the shit that they say about each other now, like, not seem that crazy or as crazy as we think it is. And I'm just thinking about this, like the documentary that some person that's like me now is going to watch on this election in 50 years, where they're like, holy shit, then the other guy got shot. What are you talking about?
The other guy got shot.
Oh my God. And yeah, the whole thing is nuts, and just living through it in real time when media has never been more prevalent and crazy and like theatrical, and all the different angles and footage, and you're watching all the real-time cell phone footage of the shooter beforehand, and then you're getting into conspiracies about like, how the hell did they let this happen? It's impossible to imagine that somebody could shoot the former president who's the front runner to be the next president. It's just, dude, it's been absolutely fascinating. So yeah, it's been hard not to say something, to be honest with you.
Well, I'm glad you could air it out here.
And it's just not, I don't think it has any signs of slowing down. The whole thing
yeah,
it's
crazy. One thing after the other. I mean, maybe it seems Trump is trying to just go forward as though he's just like the president now, which is,
that's kind of what you have to do, just appear more presidential. I think that's probably the right move. And then like, I mean, Biden is pins and needles. Everything he says is pins and needles. You have no idea which direction he's going to go. He almost said, we got to make America great again last night, but he caught himself. That was right after he said battle box. So he's like trying to get through. So you're just, every minute of it is fucking riveting after it was just not interesting at all. It was like Nikki Haley was trying to get some delegates from Trump, and that was the most
it wasn't working.
Dramatic that this whole thing was. And then all of a sudden, it really picked up in the last couple of weeks. So it's been fucking wild over here, just trying to pay attention to everything. All right. From the gallery, we got to do quick little from the gallery action, brought to you by our great friends at TaylorMade Golf. What if the golf ball that you're playing is not the number one ball for you? That's the big question. You got to meet the all-new TP5 and TP5X from TaylorMade, whether you prefer the softest 5-layer ball in the TP5 or the fastest. That's now half a club longer, by the way, in the TP5X. You'll be playing golf, a golf ball that performs like it was built just for you. They've also got great customization. They've got white, yellow picks. You can personalize it with my symbol. Head to TaylorMadeGolf.com today to find the number one ball for you. That's TaylorMadeGolf.com today. Find the number one ball for you. We have got Cole from Michigan, who says, at this point, will Phil Mickelson ever get the nod as the United States Ryder Cup captain?
I really do think that Tiger's, I mean, we said this last time, though. I do think Tiger's going to do 27 in Ireland. He's boys with JP McManus. It's at a dare.
Mm-hmm.
He'll be a couple years older, not playing. Yeah, I think he will. I mean, he's only 53. You could do it until you're like 7. You know, there's going to be like another 10 cycles. Eventually, this will all, you know, in a couple of years when this is all done, or whenever it's going to be all done. I think he will. Yeah, don't you?
I think yes. I think absolutely. I'm with you. I think that this will all subside. There'll be a point in 2 years or 4 years or 6 years where Phil is in the most highest regard with the fans. You already kind of see it. Like if you're on site when Phil Mickelson walks by, people kind of go nuts like they always have. Phil's doing videos on you. Like, you know, I think everything's pretty much fine in a lot of ways to where it didn't seem like it was a couple years ago. So I think Phil will absolutely be Ryder Cup captain at some point. I don't know exactly where that is. You're probably going to have to go, you're going to have to go 4, 6, 8 years down the line. But even then, Phil will only be high 50s, 60. That's not that crazy, especially in today's day and age and with this little coffee thing that he's got. So,
yeah. Seeing as he won a major at 51
yeah,
or whatever
right.
it was.
He sure did, which is crazy to think about at this point. But good for him, and I think he absolutely will be. Teddy from St. Charles, Illinois says, what is everybody's go-to breakfast? This could be either pre-golf or just in general. Are we mixing in Bloody Marys, a couple of mimosas with the fellas? What are we eating on a daily basis?
You know, this is an interesting one because I was just talking about this week. I almost never crave food, like not specific foods. But ever since I moved to LA, I've been really craving the like bodega greasy bagel sandwich that you get in New York. Like eggs for me, I don't do cheese, so eggs, sausage, and jalapenos on a sesame bagel. Like a little hungover, you get the grease and the acid in your stomach with some hot sauce on it. That's, I mean, it's definitely not the best feeling the whole day. But berries, like I've tried to go that route a few times. Acai bowls, it just doesn't give me enough fuel.
I'm with you. I'm in an unfortunate pickle where, you know, the more I've researched and from my doctor wants me to do at least 12 to 14 hour fast every day, which isn't that crazy. That's from like if you finish dinner at 8 p.m., you don't eat until 8 a.m. or you don't actually not only don't eat, I have to change my coffee order and all that too. 0 calories, just none until at least 8 a.m. I think I can go longer, so I can generally go to at least 10 or 11 a.m. Today, right now, it's 12:39 p.m. Local time, and I haven't consumed a single calorie yet today. So I'm a very hungry person, but I try to, as best I can, not eat breakfast. And the reason I said it's a tough pickle, breakfast is my favorite meal of the day. I've actually been known since I started doing this whole thing I'll just go do breakfast for dinner at the local Black Bear Diner at fucking 7 p.m. because I love breakfast food, dude. When you get eggs, hash browns, maybe a little sausage link, some crispy bacon, some toast with some butter, you get an English muffin, you get a bagel, you get a pancake, you get a waffle, whatever it is, just traditional breakfast food, and mixing a lot of it up together is so fucking delicious. A breakfast sandwich, dude, you get like a sausage, egg, and cheese when you're hungover on Saturday morning on like an everything bagel or an English muffin or anything, really, is so goddamn delicious. It's probably my favorite food, to be frank. It's probably my favorite overall food. So it sucks that I don't really eat breakfast. And then on the drink front, I just don't like Bloody Marys. It's one of my great.
Yeah, me either. I don't like sediment in my drinks.
It's one of my great gripes I have with my taste palate, which is that I just don't like Bloody Marys. I wish I did. I would say every 2 to 3 years, I try it thinking like I was just wrong all these years or something, and I'm going to like it now. First sip, I fucking hate it. It makes me want to puke. I despise them. I think I've told this story before, but at one time I had to suck one down and hated every sip because I went skiing with my buddy Nick. We were the last 2 guys to come off the slopes. We skied till like 2 or 3 in the afternoon after being out there all day. Everybody else had bailed at noon or something. And we get back, we're at Killington, and we get to the main lodge, and there's a band playing. It's the après ski scene. It's awesome. We battle through the crowds. We get ourselves a tiny little two-top table that we get to stand at. And he's like, you hold down the table. I'm going to go get us some drinks. I'm like, awesome. He goes, he battles the crowds, takes him like 15 minutes to get there and back. And he's got these 2 just giant Bloody Marys. And there was just no way to get through it. There was no way to tell him that I don't like Bloody Marys. So I sat there with him one-on-one and drank like a 20-ounce Bloody Mary that I almost puked on every single sip. And that was like 12, 15 years ago. So I just don't like Bloody Marys. I wish I did. Mimosa, I'll fuck with. Screwdriver's a great choice, but you can't drink too many of them. You get heartburn. But I like a nice morning cocktail. I've said during the winter months, I've been known to drink a White Russian. Can't drink too many of those. They're basically like a chocolate milkshake is kind of what they taste like to a degree, or just a milkshake, I guess. So I love a good White Russian in the morning as like a nice little get up, but you can't really have it. You can kind of have it anytime, I would say, but it's a little weird sometimes when you order a White Russian, but that's a great morning drink that I like. So yeah, that's kind of how
Tequila
I feel about
Sunrise.
the morning, so.
Tequila Sunrise.
Tequila Sunrise is really nice. That's a really nice choice.
Hunter, put me onto
Really
that
nice
one.
choice.
Shout out, Hunter. Love you. Miss you.
Anybody got anything else? By anybody, I mean Dan. Dan, do you have anything
I
else?
gotta get to dinner. I got my my voucher, and dinner closes at 9 p.m. So I gotta get out of here.
Oh, you got to get the hell out. That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for everybody for listening. It's Major Championship Week. We're going to be back on Thursday, and then we'll be watching some golf. So have a good week. Hit it hard.
Hit hard.